Hello, my name is Roshan Narayan, and thank you for joining us on In20. If you're watching us on YouTube,
Do that back four and protect and pass the ball very, very simply. He is brilliant. If you put leg.
It's snowing where Danny lives. It's raining cats and dogs where I live. So, Danny, if you hear the thunder, you can't see the lightning unless you're really special. But if you do hear the thunder, I do apologize. And I do also apologize if you're a United fan because David De Gea, at one point of time, was the best player in the United squad. But of late, maybe a season or two, is he still that player that he was a few seasons ago?
No, I don't think he is for several different reasons. We've seen lack of form. We've seen some mistakes from time to time from him. And yesterday was a perfect example. The shot, the cross comes in, and he parries it. It's like he's indecisive. He doesn't decide whether he's going to catch the ball or whether he's going to parry it. And if you parry it, you've got to get it clear. You've got to get it, past 12 yards, past the penalty spot. And he just leaves it there, and it becomes a tap-in for Decore, who's followed up. And that then gives Everton momentum, to keep going. The last thing you need at the start of a second half is to give the opposition a leg up, and that's exactly what he did.
Okay, so if you've been watching, which you have because you're a pundit and I'm a TV host or YouTube host or whatever host I am, you would have noticed, like I did, that he doesn't seem to be all there in terms of his concentration, his desire to be number one. Apart from the Champions League, he's won everything with United. So should he have left United a season or two ago when he was heavily linked with the likes of Real Madrid?
Well, when you go back when he almost went to Real Madrid, where he was there ready with a pen, about to sign the contract, and then it fell through at the 11th hour, the 59th minute, and he came back and he was sensational for 3 seasons. He was maybe 4 seasons. He was sensational. He was United's best player. So that obviously didn't affect him in any way, shape, or form. He's had dips in form. I think it's just a lack of self-belief, a lack of confidence at times. And you're talking fine margins. When you talk about professional football, you talk about 0.01% of the population, that manage to get to that level. And then those that manage to win a Premier League, and manage to win trophies, it's even fewer. So if you were working in business, you'd be the CEO of Apple or you'd be the CEO of Microsoft, whatever it might be. That's the sort of equivalent. There aren't many people that do this job to get to that top level. But when you have a dip in confidence and you drop by 5 or 10%, that's a big margin to drop from. And I think that's what it is. It's strange because obviously Dean Henderson was brought back in to challenge him for the number one spot. Hasn't really been given an opportunity. I'm sure when he left Sheffield United and had that magnificent season, that he must have spoken to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and said, look, if I'm going to come back, I want a real opportunity to play first team football because there's a chance that I could make, the England squad and make the Euros. And I'm sure Ole must have said to him, okay, you're in with a fair shout. But it just hasn't happened. And David De Gea is okay. He's not letting him through his legs. He's not letting him slip through his hands at times. But you would expect a goalkeeper, if you're going to win the league, if you're going to challenge to win the Premier League, you've got to have a better goalkeeper than that.
All right. So if this is a scenario presented to Manchester United, a swap deal, Jan Oblak for David De Gea, would you go for that if you were United?
Oh, definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt. And unless, obviously, something that I don't. There's something obviously on the Malaysian grapevine that you've heard that I haven't, as opposed to that swap deal. But yeah, it's people always go, you've got to go, or you give Dean Henderson a go. You look how good he was at Sheffield United. You're not going to know how good he is and whether he can deal with the pressures at Manchester United unless you give him an opportunity.
Okay, if you were to give me an opportunity to completely dissect Manchester United in terms of defense, here's what I would start with. Scott McTominay is now apparently the heir apparent to Roy Keane in midfield, Michael Carrick in midfield. But defensively, position-wise, I always find him wanting because he's always in the wrong spot at the wrong time for United. If you watched the game yesterday, I think it was a 46-minute. We'll show you something right now. He's beside Calvert-Lewin. He's noticed that Lindelof has his back turned to him, yet he is pointing to Calvert-Lewin and telling Lindelof to pick him up. if you do go watch the video of this, he's completely let the player go and Everton have an opportunity. Now, if you were a centre back or a defender, what would you be doing in this situation, Danny?
I'm saying, get out of my space. You'd call, if I was Scott McTominay, you'd be screaming at Lindelof, open up your shoulders, look over your shoulder. That's your man. Mark him, pick him up. And then if you go back to that, I don't know if you can go back, just to sort of flick back to that, because the problem you've got, look where, I think that's Gomez on the right-hand side. Look how much space and time he's got next to the referee. Now, that's the next problem. So suddenly you've got two men in Lindelof and McTominay, not really marking Calvert-Lewin, but within that vicinity. And now you've got two players. You've got James Rodriguez, I think is the number 19 that's closest to the ball, in 10 yards of space. You've then got Gomez in 15, 20 yards of space. That's the problem. And that's what United didn't do second half. They allowed Everton far too much space in that midfield area. They didn't close down. Tom Davies got a lot of space and was able to run at people at times. And that's what caused them problems.
Okay, if you can see Harry Maguire as well over there, he is literally watched Lord of the Rings and he's Bilbo Baggins because he's on an adventure. Because I'll show you the next picture in terms of him being caught wanting. Again, how can a striker, if you know he's there, finds that space in between the centre back, so the centre back and the left back or the right back, time in, time out?
We were always taught, and I go back to the old school ways of defending, which were the right ways. If the centre forward can see your number on the back of your shirt, you're in a bad position. Because if he can see your number, generally you can't see him. We were always told, shoulders down the pitch. So, your shoulders have to face towards the goal because then, you're opened up like this and you can see everything. He's got a closed position, so he can't see where the striker is. And therefore, the striker only needs to just sort of drop off a yard, 2 yards, and suddenly he's in acres of space. And then he's dictating. The striker's now in the position where he dictates because he decides when he needs to run. He can keep himself on side and he can run in. He gets the run on Maguire, and that's that. And it's just a poor body position. You've got to have shoulders down the pitch, open yourself up. As a fullback, I would be screaming at my centre halves all the time. Open your body up on your shoulder, getting them to turn and open up all the time to make sure that they could see over their shoulder. Because in that situation, he's not going to score from where he is with the ball. The danger is in behind you and that runner, and that's what you've got to stop.
And if you keep opening up United's defense week in, week out like this, it'll lead to the final moment, which I want to pick on, is the James Rodriguez goal. That space again, Danny. I mean, look at apparently the holding midfielder, which is Fred. Then you got Scott McTominay all the way to the far right. Beside Lindelof, then you got Maguire, you got Rashford. It is, would you say on a scale of 1 to 10, this would be a strong fall in terms of defending?
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's a title winning back four. That is for sure. Yeah. Let's tell you what, James Rodriguez is an exceptional player. The touch and finish is pure quality. He's absolutely brilliant. But we all know that. So you cannot give a player of his quality, what's he got there? 6 yards of space? A player of his quality needs 1.5 yards. That's all, to have a touch and get his head up. He has a touch and then he fires it into the bottom corner. Again, as the cross is coming in from the right-hand side, Fred's got to be looking over his shoulder, like this all the time. Where's my man? Where is he? Am I close enough to him?
Yep.
The goal's not going to go in from the cross. So who is Fred marking at that particular time? What is he stopping? He's not stopping the cutback. And if it does get to James Rodriguez, he's not tight enough to affect that. So it's, you can say it's nitpicking, but it's these fine margins that make such a big difference at the top level. So
if you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, if you're Mike Phelan right now, you're looking at all these highlights, in the dressing room or wherever it is at halftime or full time or in the training facility. What would you change, or what would you just tell them to go like, listen, do your job? And how do they do it?
I think you have to just run through it time and time again. You have to put those scenarios on the training ground. You make it false. You take out the fullbacks, for instance, and you just go, crosses are coming into the box. and you mock it up, and you put people in situations, and then you stop it and say, right, okay, if that ball goes there, are you close enough? No, right, go back and do it again. And it just becomes repetition. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. It's a little bit boring at times. I have to admit, I got bored doing that from time to time. But that's what it is. Defending is the easier part of the game. To destroy is much easier than it is to create. And it's repetition, just going through scenarios over and over again, putting yourself in the best position to stop something.
Okay, what's stopping Everton from breaking the top four on a regular basis?
I think it's a little bit of consistency, a little bit of maybe strength in depth at times. I think they're a work in progress. They've had injury problems this season, especially obviously with both the fullbacks being out for a length of time. I think they're from. Let's think of where Everton have been the last 3 or 4 seasons. I think there's a little bit much to suddenly ask them to be in the top 4 on a consistent level. The start of the season, Alan's still missing. He was absolutely magnificent at the start of the season. James Rodriguez has come in and been sensational, but he's had his injury problems. Calvert-Lewin, they've now brought in obviously Josh King, who can add a little bit of firepower. Richarlison, again, it is inconsistent.
A hit and miss?
No, I think inconsistent. He's incredible talent at times, but it's not. He doesn't do it week in, week out. And Everton are a work in progress. They're growing. They've got a lot of good things about them. They just need to keep improving.
So, would you say out of the 3 places, be it attack, defense, or midfield, that defense would be the key area that Everton need to focus on, or is it midfield?
I think it's just a little bit of everything. Calvert-Lewin on form is sensational. We know that. We've seen that. Alan, when he's on top form, is absolutely brilliant. Maybe at centre half, but who doesn't need a centre half at the moment? Every team on the planet needs a centre half at the moment. They don't seem to exist. I'm sure Rio Ferdinand might want to come out of retirement at the moment. It's this. And that's the problem at times. There's maybe because of what's happened over the last sort of 10 years, we've stopped producing great defenders. Rio Ferdinand, Amanda Vitic, John Terry, those type of players, they don't seem to exist anymore. So when you get a Virgil van Dijk, it's like, wow, this is like unbelievable. We've got someone that can defend and can play as well. So I think it's just slowly improving, every way you possibly can.
How do we improve this situation when it comes to something you love, refereeing and Mike Dean? Before we get into it, here's a little video of good old Mike in action as a fan, which he has every right to. But listen, I'm not a psychologist or anything like this. But when I watched this video, the very first time it was aired, when he was at the ground watching his team play, all it told me was, this man loves being the center of attention, Danny. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right. Me, myself, and I think springs to mind. It's just all about me, and me.
This is just one clip. I'm telling you, there's a clip of him looking at what's his name, Fellaini's hairstyle. I mean, he loves the job. He loves the job.
Look at all the other fans around him. They're clapping, they're celebrating. But there's only one person going completely over the top, and he knows full well the camera is on him. He's trying to be a man of the people. He's a million miles from that. He's nowhere near man of the people. And the 2 mistakes that he's made in the last 2 games, David Moyes summed it up perfectly, are embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. You talk about, the one was overturned, obviously, in Bednarek. For Southampton, at the end of the game. Ridiculous decision. Nobody looked at that and thought it's a foul. Everybody thought it was a Martial dive. But no, Mike Dean decides it's a red card. Overturned, rightly so. Punished for making a big mistake? No. And then in the game yesterday, there's not a single football pundit, single person that I've seen thinks that is a red card. Why the referee, the VAR, sends him across to the monitor in the first place. He then takes I don't know, 2-3 minutes. He must watch that 20 times. I watched it once, sat with my boys and went, no chance of red card. Immediately afterwards, on Sky Sports, Jamie Redknapp, no red card. All the pundits on Match of the Day, no red card. David Moyes, embarrassing. Who's wrong here? Is everybody wrong? Or is Mike Dean wrong? Mike Dean's wrong. So that's 2 huge mistakes. Has to be overturned. It's got to get. And if it is, that's 2 red cards that have been overturned that have both gone to VAR, and he's both been able to watch several times. Surely that has to be a suspension. Nothing else from that.
I'm just going to be the defense lawyer for the scenario. Okay, I know what he's done is wrong in terms of the things he's created himself. Nobody else has done this to Mike Dean apart from Mike Dean himself, and he's got to get some credit for being a referee in this day and age, because it's not being easy referee. But how would the Referees Association handle Mike Dean, seeing that he is now, say, for example, the biggest name, in the organization?
But why should he be the biggest name? That's a problem in itself, isn't it? How do you become the biggest name of a referee? Is he the best referee? No, that's probably Michael Oliver. So why is Mike Dean? Why is it his name? That tells you everything. It's all It's all about name. It's all about theatre. It's all about he wants the attention all the time. I tell you what we should make him come out and explain his decisions, because it's not.
Love it. He's in front of the camera then again.
Yeah, but then you put people, and then make him explain his decisions, because then it becomes laughable. You have to be accountable for what he's done. There's not a single person. When you read the laws of violent conduct, it has to be deliberate, excessive force, endanger an opponent. It's an accident. That's what it is. When you're tussling, the moment that someone grabs your arm, the first thing you do is you try and pull away. So all he's done is he's gone like that to get away, and as his arm comes up, he's caught him very, very slightly. It's accidental. To say he saw it the first time because he blew the whistle and he stopped the game.
Because if you want to,
that's an elbow. Or you've got it. It's not an arced movement over the top where you're trying to get out of the way like that. Trust me. Pull up the Ben Thatcher on Nicky Summerby.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
That's an elbow.
I remember watching that.
Yeah, of course. It's a horrific decision. Absolutely horrific. I think, and David Moyes was right. He should be embarrassed by what he's done, because he hasn't made a mistake on the spot. He's gone and watched that 20 or 30 times on the monitor, and he still thinks it's a red card. And that is a serious worry to me.
And he knows full well that all the cameras are on him watching that screen. If you've been watching the screen of late, would you say that, I know Manchester City are in action later on today, but if they go on to win that game, they are title favourites?
Oh, they're title favourites anyhow. I think if they win that, that's it. Liverpool are done and dusted. They're out of it. If Manchester City, they would got 10 points ahead of Liverpool with a game in hand. So the way that City are playing at the moment, you'd probably think that's 13 points that they would be ahead if they win, of course.
Yeah.
Liverpool can't claw that back.
No United at all?
I don't think they will be consistent enough between now and the end of the season. It's City's to lose. City win today. It's a massive game, huge game. City in great form. We've seen City go before, 14, 15 games, straight wins, towards the end of the season. City might lose maybe one game between now and the end of the season. For Liverpool to catch them, if City win today, they're going to have to lose 4, 5 maybe. That's not happening.
All right, Danny. I know you wanted to talk about the bottom half of the table. We have less than 40 seconds.
Well,
I promise you.
No, it's easy, Roshan. The bottom 3, unusually, are going down, I think, which is very normally.
Wow.
Normally, somebody from above gets sucked into it, and someone has this unbelievable run and gets out of it. I don't think that's going to happen this season. So I'm going to stick my neck on the line. Sheffield United relegated. West Brom, sadly for Big Sam, this is going to be his first time relegation. And Fulham, I just don't think are going to have it.
Wow. This is why we work with you, Danny, on a daily basis, because you are so good at what you do. You did it within 30 seconds. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. I shall see you next week. Stay safe. I know there's a blizzard or something headed your way. Stay warm as well. Remember all the talking points on our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook page. Till the next time, take care.